Hello students, today we're going to learn about conditional sentences in English. Are you ready? Okay, first a brief review. These conditional sentences are made up of two parts. We have a main clause and a conditional clause introduced by if. They present an event if clauses are conditioned for another event to happen. And we use them to express different levels of possibility, from something that can be real in the present to real situations. The order in which they appear is not important, so you can start with the main clause and then the if clause, or vice versa. The important thing is that if you start the sentence with the if clause, you have to write a comma after it. Take a look at this example. This is so because, let's say, you're breaking the normal order of a sentence by putting the subordinate clause first. Okay, let's see. Zero or factual conditionals. They express things that are always true. If X happens, Y happens. They both take present tense, both in the if clause and in the main clause. Okay, in this case, if could be easily substituted by when, because if one condition is met, the other will also be met. Okay, take a look at this beautiful example from real life. And here's another. Okay, mind you that if we're speaking about facts in the past, it only makes sense to not to use present tense but past tense, because the action is over. Take a look at the example. If it didn't rain, I always went to school by bike when I was a child. Well, the period when I was a child is over, so it doesn't make sense to use the present tense, does it? So we would use the past simple. Okay, that's all about those. The first type, conditional sentences. If X happen, something will happen. We always teach you that we take present tense in the if clause and will in the main clause, but this is not so. There is a number of verb tenses that you can use, and they have different levels of meaning, right? If you don't take a look at the example, sorry. If you did take an umbrella, you will get wet. It's a probability. You might get wet. It's a possibility. You're going to get wet for sure. And as a piece of advice, if you don't want to get wet, take an umbrella. Okay. Now, just briefly, you probably don't know, we always teach you that will always goes in the main clause. It can happen in the if clause, but only if you want to express politeness or you want to be emphatic. Let's take a look at these two examples. If you will smoke 20 a day, it's not surprising you have a hacking cough. This is emphatic, right? If you'll just if you'll just fill in this form before you go, you can hand it to reception. This is politeness. You see? But only in these cases, okay? Right. Let's move on to the second type of conditional sentences. These will take past simple in the if clause, would in the main clause, but you could also use might or could to express that possibility. They describe the speaker think would happen in a hypothetical situation and likely situation in the present or the future, as in the examples. Now, take a look at this example. Beautiful love, right? Okay, so when we use the verb to be in this type of conditionals, we always tell you that we use where for the first, second and third person singular, therefore I, you and he, she, it, and the plurals we, you, they. However, in the spoken English, they tend to use was for the first and the third person singular. If she was rich, she would buy a big house. We also use where when we want to give advice. If I were you, that's, let's say, kind of a fixed expression. Right, take a look at the example. This is taken from a cartoon, and as you can see, they use was rather than where. Where is considered more formal, so as it were. Right, you can stop the video now, train your capacity to build up second type conditional forms by thinking about these situations and talking about them. When you're ready, you can go on, because we have this tiny exercise just as a revision of these types of conditionals that you should know right now. So just press stop. Correct the sentence, the mistakes in the sentences if you find any, and when you're ready, press play again, because you'll see the key to this exercise. You ready? Here we go. This is the key, right? Mind you, let me show you. Aha, why is 5 incorrect? Because you probably forgot the commas. Commas are important. Good. Let's move on now to the third type conditional. We use past perfect in the if clause and would have, might have, could have in the main clause. These sentences describe what the speaker thinks would have happened as a consequence of a situation which is in the past, so it's impossible to change. In other words, we speak about how the situation in the past would have had different consequences given different conditions. Take a look at these examples. If Marion had married John, she would have been happy in the past. She didn't marry him, so she was unhappy all her life. Or this one. If I had known our TV viewing habits were so incompatible, I never would have let things go so far. Well, solution. Get 2 separate TV sets, right? Good. These type of conditionals you probably know. Let's talk now about mixed type conditionals. Sometimes we need a combination of the second type conditional and the third type conditional. How so? Well, when we need to express that a past condition has a result in the present. Let's take a look. If you had brought them up, we wouldn't be lost. Good. As you can see, that we're mixing past perfect from the third type and the conditional would from type 2. What's the situation in the past was that you didn't bring them up, and the consequence in the present is that we are lost now. So we use type 2 to refer to the situation now. So we speak about a possibility in the present, okay, and we mix it with a situation in the past that should have been different, but it isn't, and we can't change it. Okay? Or vice versa. Mixed type conditionals can also mix types in a different way. Take a look at this example. You would have got better marks in the last exam if you paid attention in class. Okay, what's the present situation? The present situation is I don't pay attention in class because I'm always talking. So ideally, if I paid attention in class, the situation would be different now. But we're speaking about a consequence in the past of my present habits. The consequence was that I had bad marks in the last exam because I didn't pay attention, and I don't usually pay attention. So we have you would have got better marks. That's type 3 because we're speaking about a situation in the past that we can't change, and we're speaking about how it would have been different. If you paid more attention in class, now, this is a present situation. We're speaking about a hypothetical situation in the present. That's why we use type 2. Okay? Complicated, isn't it? Here's another example in real life. Excellent. Before we proceed to the exercises for you to check if you understood mixed type conditionals, let's talk about the alternatives to the word if. We can use if clauses, but we don't necessarily need to use if clauses all the time. Sometimes by substituting the word if, we can add a little bit of meaning to what we say. So we're saying a little bit more than simply a condition, and this will make your writings look more accurate. So let's start. In case, we can use in case when we want to express the possible situation we want to be prepared for. So take the umbrella in case it rains. We can also use even if. Even if is used to give emphasis to the condition in cases where the information in the main clause cannot be changed by the action in the conditional clause. So let's say it doesn't matter that one of the conditions is met, the other one is simply not going to happen. You won't go out even if you finish your homework because you're grounded, so there's no way. By using provided that or as long as, we can express only if. You can take the exam provided that you are 18. Only if you're 18. Okay? Provided, providing, or as long as. We can use unless. Unless means if not. We use it when we say that if something does not happen, something else will happen. And it's mostly used when we're given a warning or a threat. Unless you pass all your exams, you won't go on holiday with your friends. Is this familiar to you? Did your parents use this with you? Now, whether. Whether is a synonym for if, and we use it to emphasize that something is true in either of two cases, okay? I'm going to sell the car whether you agree or not. So if you agree, I will say it. If you don't agree, I will say it. So this is going to happen in either case. Suppose or supposing. We use suppose or supposing when we are asking the person to imagine that something is possible or that could happen, right? And it's usually used at the beginning of a sentence. Supposing you lost your job, what would you do? Finally, I would like to tell you that in third type conditionals, we can invert had and the subject and leave out if. This is used in very formal writing, especially in letters of application, of complaint, formal letters, an essay. Had I known, if I had known. All right. It's the same. What we do is we put the auxiliary first, had, right? Then we use the subject and then the verb. If is simply dropped out of the question. This, I insist, is very formal. You shouldn't use it when you're speaking. Right. Excellent. Just a brief reminder, these and conditional sentences can also be used not only to express conditions, but to express other functions in language like wishes, regrets, and complaints. We can make wishes about the present by using a real past simple, I wish I knew. Or we can make wishes about the past, something that happened and we can't change it. In this case, we could use I wish or if only, past perfect. If only had studied harder. If only had paid attention. We can also use would with I wish or if only to criticize or complain about something in the present or talk about someone's present that we would like to be different. I wish you would stop smoking. That would be a very illustrative example. Okay, right, I love this one. Excellent. Now, here's a tiny exercise just to check that you understood the difference between third type and second type, mixed type conditional, You have a number of sentences, 8 sentences, and 2 alternatives. One will give you a third type conditional and the other will give you a mixed type conditional. You have to choose the alternative to make the latter, okay, to make mixed type conditionals. We will check this in class to discuss the difference between one and the other. And well, this is all I have from me now. I hope that you understood. I hope that you enjoyed the video. And if you have any questions, I will be very happy to answer them when we meet again. Bye bye.